get the gym shoes up out. But welcome to the 20th anniversary of National Black Business Month in Chicago. And all of May Gray, Dr. Will, and everything is Black business. And his mother's here to talk to you.
Green, she can help you. Right here, this one right here.
Inspiration, especially with days like this. Where a baby at?
Founding Executive Director for K-Ron Center for the Arts Foundation. On behalf of my board and my team, we welcome you into the space. And I have the honorable and esteemed pleasure of introducing the mayor of the greatest city in the country, the city of Chicago. Mayor Johnson was first elected to the Cook County Board of Commissioners in 2018 after defeating incumbent Commissioner Richard Boykin in the Democratic primary election and winning the general election unopposed. Mayor Johnson won re-election to the county board in 2022 and was elected mayor of this great city in 2023. An educator, a West Sider, and this, a man of the people, our people, all of our people in the city of Chicago. I unapologetically and excitedly welcome our Mayor, Brandon Johnson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for that incredible introduction, and I'm here to celebrate a real holiday. How about that? So happy Chairman Fred Hampton Senior Day. So of course, I want to thank Mother Core. Thank you for her leadership and her bravery and brilliance. Of course, the political organizer, and activist, and just overall good brother, Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. Of course, this is Rashida Graham Washington. Thank you for your leadership and your brilliance. My dear friend, SEIU Local 73, Deputy Political Director, Crystal Gardner, another fine West Sider. For always being a welcoming space for our people. I am truly honored to be with you all today to celebrate the life and legacy of Chairman Fred Hampton. From a very early age, of course, Chairman Hampton experienced the brutality of white supremacy. It played out through racism and hatred, and the inequality, the lynch and death, of course, of our dear brother, Emmett Till. It did shape his future as an organizer, as a leader, who wanted to obviously uplift and protect and empower Black people, but he also understood that empowering Black people around the country, that it wasn't just our responsibility for our liberation. And he was a coalition builder, something that often gets ignored when we discuss his legacy. Because it wasn't just people that he loved that he convinced, it was the people that unfortunately we experienced racism and hatred that he was able to convince and compel as well. And we all know that the greatest subject to ever teach is social studies, and I'm a proud social studies teacher. And I do want to drop just a little bit of history before I take my seat. You know, 1968 was a very prophetic year for our country. And the Black Panther Party established not just an entity or organization, but it was really a network for hope and transformation. And of course, his work and his leadership that launched community service programs that now have turned into policy. And everything from making sure that our children have food, everything from making sure that we had access to health care, access to affordable housing, and really just the ability to exist. That was birthed out of the love and the inspiration of Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. We oftentimes give credit to so many other people for their progressive proclivities, but keep in mind that what has been deemed as progressive has always been birthed out of our hope and aspiration for Black liberation. And Chairman Fred, of course, was a very powerful communicator of that love. And he used his skills to unite people, combining our resources that were built through the Black Panthers, along with other groups like the Puerto Rican Young Lord Association, the Poor White Young Patriots Organization. The Rainbow Coalition came out of the love and the inspiration of our dear brother. And so that work, you know, it's still very much a tragedy that it was cut off, you know, by his assassination. But the contributions that he has made have long lived his physical state here. And so that spirit is still very much alive. I always refer to the brilliance and the excellence that Chairman Fred brought to humanity as the embodiment of what I call the soul of Chicago. And we see it as young people continue to come together to say out loud that our lives do matter, Black lives. And we see it as it play out as we push for affordable housing, as we work to expand mental health services. I'm very proud that we had an example of such a profound leader, that the work that I'm able to do as a mayor of the city of Chicago, of reopening mental health clinics, making sure I'm very much inspired by the Black Panther Party, as well as the liberatory expression of Chairman Fred. We hired 27,767 young people for summer jobs. That's the vision of Chairman Fred. And then we have the largest investment in the history of Chicago, a $1.25 billion investment for economic development for small businesses and building affordable homes. So when I see the vendors lined up, understand that my vision for the city of Chicago is very much tethered to the great liberator himself. That's Chairman Fred. Long live Chairman Fred.
Long live.
All right. Yeah.
Long live Chairman Fred!
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 All right.
Long live Chairman Fred.
All right, long live.
We are here today because first, the chairman was here. And it wasn't this room, but it was this ground, it was this soil. And so we thank you all for coming back to the place. That means so much to us. It means so much to me. I was born and raised here. That I know means so much to our mayor. So thank you so much. And I want to just pause real quick and pay honor to the Chairman Fred Jr., Fred Hampton Jr., who is in the house.
Yeah.
This is your heart, this is your vision, and it's your father's birthday. Congratulations. So let's begin. We start with this question, Mayor Johnson. You are here with us to celebrate the life and legacy of Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. As a, I would say, former educator, but once and always educator, how have you translated the significance of the chairman in your role as teacher leader in the city of Chicago?
Thank you for that question. Having served as a public school teacher in Chicago, a social studies teacher, having taught at the Green USA, having taught right here on the west side of Chicago at Westinghouse High School, I've brought not just the history of Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. into my lessons, but also the motivation of Chairman Fred. You know, it's not enough to just run through the historical facts, right? That's oftentimes the approach of social studies. But it's more or less helping young people understand and see their beauty. And in many instances, when I would teach, it was, let me back up for a second. It was important in my classroom that my young people had the full opportunity to grieve the loss that our people have experienced and suffered over decades. And whether it's through police brutality, whether it's through political violence, of disrupting our ability to live freely, or shutting down public schools, public housing, that it's still important that we grieve those losses. Right? And that's a way in which we never forget the harm and the torment. I'll say this with some political risk. You know, whenever there is an attack against the Jewish community and there's anti-Semitism, the Jewish community fights back viciously because they never want to end up in concentration camps ever again, which is their right. When I would teach in the classroom, I would discuss our history through the lens of Chairman Fred, that the attacks against black folks, imagine if we saw the attacks against us as another way to put us at the bottom of a slave ship. That's what his legacy meant for me as an educator, that if you're shutting down schools and making it impossible for families to eat, then that's no different than stuffing us in the bottom of slave ships, sending us all to a place that we can't. And I did all that with 13 and 14-year-olds. And I think the final point that I'll make is the part that's encouraging about this room, seeing young people in this room, gives me that much more confidence that Chairman Fred Hampton will live long and forever, because as long as you hear babies crying, we have an opportunity to experience our full liberation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Into the reality that some of the family members and mothers of those children, of our children, right, are in this room today. We have Ms. Rice in our midst today. Sonia Massey, and the daughter of George Floyd, who couldn't be here today, but it's definitely in our hearts and minds and spirits. Sending solidarity statements to the People Convention on behalf of celebrating the chairman this afternoon. Angela Young will be in the building today, and I know she reps for our city, y'all, every chance she gets. With those images, those tough images still fresh in our minds, and in addition to the acts that precede the infamous date of December 4, 1969, the assassination of Chairman Fred Hampton and Defense Captain Mark Clark, but also of a 19-year-old Deborah Johnson, now mother of Kua Jerry, who is in the house today. Pregnant and jailed shortly after what has become dubbed as the massacre on Monroe. What measures, Mayor Johnson, can we take as a city during your tenure in office to commemorate and consistently honor the lives and the families that will continue to grieve, including acknowledgement of the possible mental health impact, and I know that's near and dear to you, and the trauma that not only those who are directly impacted, but of the respective communities as well?
Well, thank you for just the framing of that. You know, as I said before, many other people groups will always remind their respective people groups of what the most egregious acts of torment and torture, what they were, and what it means to never forget. And, you know, the lives that you have just expressed, it's not enough just to name them. You all have your brother on the 5th floor. I'm not infallible. I'm not perfect by no stretch of the imagination. What I do know, though, is we still have to strive for perfection. And the way we remember and carry out the legacy of those who've been snatched away from us is we take absolute political control over these government systems, and we make sure that we do right by our people through reparations. And what does that look like in real time? What it looks like in real time is that when I express the need to reopen mental health clinics, Mayor Harold Washington was here. We had more mental health clinics in the city of Chicago than many other places in the country. And since Mayor Harold Washington, they've been stripping away the public good. The reason why it was important for me to restore that and to work towards restoration, there's a lot of work to be done, is because our trauma and our grief is real. As resilient as we are, we get to mourn the loss of those who are not with us. And in ensuring that we are investing in mental health, we also have to invest in our economic prowess as well as our economic security. I'll say it this way freely, that even with the deficit that we're dealing with in the city of Chicago, the $1.25 billion bond for economic neighborhood development to build small businesses to help them grow, to provide pathways to home ownership. We've also been very clear about ways in which we can generate wealth to secure us for future generations. What does that look like since I've been in office? Just this week, and the mainstream may not cover it exactly the way we delivered it, but O'Hare Airport and Midway are two of the largest economic engines in the entire world. Just this week, Bowl Construction, which is ran by a black man, for the first time in the history of America, a prime black construction company will do build out and development at an airport. It's never happened in the history of America. So there are multiple ways in which we can explore and find creative ways to repair the damage that's been done. But that's the short version. The quick version is, in order to ultimately repair damages based upon the trauma that those who oppress our people, based upon the trauma that they cause, the best way to restore that is through economic advancement, and that's what I'm doing as mayor.
Thank you so much. You talked a little bit about the systems and how we reimagine them. School just started and the kids are in it in a big way. There is a new process that allows residents to elect Board of Education officials in the city of Chicago. Can you just share with us a little bit more about the intent of that shift and how Chicagoans can help elect the best candidate?
Well, it's one of the ways in which we can help secure our future is through an open democratic process. Now that I'm mayor of the city of Chicago, I could be stingy and say, well, since I'm here, I want absolute mayoral control. The reason why I'm committed to making sure that democracy works, because that is still the spirit of Chairman Fred. Look, the beauty about Chairman Fred's example is that he was secure enough as a human being to recognize that he could not do it by himself.
Yes.
Like, that's the part that sometimes we miss. As much as we celebrate him, the brother empowered other folks, and when he didn't get it right, he took course correction from his own community in many instances for women to say, brother, you gotta get that right. Woo! School board is ultimately an opportunity for us to get it right. The last thing that I'll say on it, as far as ways in which we can identify, well, Brother G2 Brown is here. West Sider, by way of South Side, he's running for the board. Look at his record. His brother starved himself just to keep a school open. Right? Fighting for our liberation. Check people's record, but not just like their voting record, what they put on a spreadsheet. Check what their actions are, right? And so, look, the last thing that I'll say, the beauty about an elected representative school board in Chicago, and it won't be perfect, but when I think about the history of this city and black liberation through public education, think about great leaders like Al Raby, who taught at Marshall High School. It was Al Raby that was a part of the work to invite Dr. King to come to Chicago. Al Raby was Mayor Harold Washington's campaign manager. So a public school teacher teaching social studies that led major boycotts in this city, brought Dr. King here, helped get Mayor Harold Washington elected, and now another social studies teacher on the west side is now on the 5th floor. You can't tell me that the work that Chairman Fred did is not living still today, because I'm proof of it, and it's really proof of it. So you keep on the west side and check people's actions. That will ultimately give you the guidance that you need to determine which particular candidate is going to represent our interests best.
Absolutely. So my last question is, if there was a question I didn't ask that you wanted to answer, what would it be, and what's your answer?
I love that. I get to ask my own questions, so I shouldn't get this wrong here. I don't know if there's another question to be asked, but what I will say is, and I've said this before, I don't know if there was a better example of what it meant and to be secure and love our people than Chairman Fred. I just don't.
Say that.
And, you know, the love that was expressed, just know that there are real forces that have not accepted the results of the Civil War, and they want a rematch. And that's from a global perspective.
Make it plain.
Make no mistake about it. I just want us to know and appreciate the uniqueness of this moment. I'm the first mayor in modern history to not have any ties to the daily operation. And we love Mayor Harold Washington. He was a precinct captain. He was on Richard J. Daley's slate when he ran for state rep. Every mayor had ties to the daily machine. Not judging it. I'm saying that if we're talking about liberation, and we know where bondage has been associated with, know that liberation exists. I'm no one's Messiah. I'll make that very clear. But what I will say is this, that those who have demonstrated that they love us and they have worked as clear leaders, my accountability is not to the people who ran this city in the ground. My accountability is to the people who built this country from the ground.